Hello and welcome to a tutorial on how I create the AL65 YouTube videos, which are song reactions, and Alan is the host. So we're going to start off and we're going to take the whole process, so hopefully nothing should be left out. Now, before we start, we have to have a few things in our project. I've just set up a very blank project here. It's got absolutely nothing in it apart from these two things here, and these two things are located in a zip folder which I will send out in a link. And all that's in them, we have a sequence here. We can tell it's a sequence because it's got that little the icon, which means it's a sequence, and there's a bin full of assets. Now you don't need to go looking in these. These are just to make sure that everything's working. So in this sequence, just so you know what it is, because we'll be coming back to it later, are our opening sequences. And this is normally how I have them set up. So I have them set up as a nest, which is like a subsequence. It's a compacted version of a sequence, and it just means that we don't accidentally mess with things that we shouldn't do. So the first thing that we're going to need to make is we're just going to have to edit these just ever so slightly, and all we need to do is trim these. So we're going to go into our window, and with our V tool selected, which is just our ordinary selection tool. You can get it by pressing V. We're going to hold down Alt and click on the end where it's red, and we're just going to drag it up to the beginning. You can see I've placed markers here where the beginning and end should be, and we're just going to do that again with the end. Now all that's done is it meant that the video is only going to play when the text is. These yellow clips, these are our editable text, and these green clips are our background layers. So you can see if we turn those off, this is just the background layer. If we turn those back on, that's our text. The reason why we've got these bits either side is just purely for audio. You can see it extends either side, and that's because of audio. We don't need to do anything with the end screen section because that's all sorted. Okay, so now we can import some footage. So we're just going to close down this sequence. So we're going to go to our files, and we are going to locate to our section, our folder. And you can see we have some clips in here, some recordings. And we are going to choose The Smiths' Girlfriend in a Coma. And that's the one that we're going to do. So what we're going to do is we're just going to select both of these, and we can either do that by clicking on one, holding down Command, and then clicking another. And that's probably the easiest way of doing it. Okay? And we're just going to literally drag and drop that into our project window. So we're going to click, hold, and drag it into our selection. And you know that it's in the selection because the Finder window will disappear, and then you'll just be in the Premiere Pro window. So we let go, and if you've done it right, it should say importing files. Okay. So now we have our file imported. Now before we go on, we're just going to do a really simple thing. We're just going to label our clips. So I like to label the screen clip, so we're going to click on the clip that says screen. We are going to right click and click locate to label, and we're going to go and give that, we're going to colour that purple. And you can tell it's coloured purple because the colour next to it has now just changed. And we're going to do the same thing with the webcam. We're going to right click, go to label, but this time we're going to select blue, and that just makes it easier for when we get it into a timeline, which we are going to create now. So we're going to go to File, New, Sequence. Okay, and you should end up with this window. Now yours might be set to a different one by custom, or by default. I've created a custom one. That's just because I use these a lot. We're going to create and customize it anyway. So really, these are the settings that you want. You may want to pause and you may want to take note of my settings. These are exactly the settings that you want. So you want the editing mode set to custom. It may be set on any one of these by default. You don't want that. You want to scroll right to the top and click on custom. Time base, we want 30 frames per second. Okay? And in the video section, we want 1920 by 1080. And you know that you've got it right if next to it says 16 by 9. That's your aspect ratio. If it doesn't say 16 by 9, chances are that your pixel aspect ratio is off. So if you look on the drop-down menu next to it, it should say square pixels. If it doesn't say that, just click on it and select square pixels. That should be at the very top. All of these you don't generally want to change, but you just want to make sure that those are the same as we're seeing here. Okay. And once those settings are how they are here, we're going to go in and we're going to just change the sequence name to the artist and the song that we're going to be covering. So in this case, it is the Smiths dash girlfriend in a coma. Okay? And once your screen looks exactly the same as mine except with a different title, you can press OK. And here we are, we're into the sequence now. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to want to do is we are going to want to create the main bulk of the sequence itself. So in order to do that, we need to put our footage onto the timeline. So we're going to select both pieces of footage, both pieces of clips, and we're going to do it the same way that we selected them both in the Finder. We're going to click on one, we're going to hold down Command, and click on another. Okay, and then we are just going to click, hold, and drag onto the timeline. And there we go. It's now on to the timeline. Brilliant. So we've got it now on the timeline. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is we're just going to do a little bit of tidying up. So you can see here we have loads of empty tracks on our timeline. And you can tell they're empty because they've got nothing in them. And you can tell the ones that have got something in them because they have these little waveforms in a slightly lighter color. Okay? So in order to get rid of the tracks that we don't want, we're going to hold down Alt and just click on the empty tracks. Okay? Now by default it will only select one at a time, but that's fine. So if you release Alt while selected, you've only got that selected and you're just going to press backspace. You can do the same for the other one. And just to speed it up, you can hold down Alt and click and drag to select multiple ones at once. And then if we click backspace, you can see that's deleted all of our empty tracks. Okay? So once we've got that, what we want to do is we need to sync up our clips now. Okay? So in order to do that, we need to layer them on top of each other. Now I usually will layer the screen on the bottom and the webcam on the top. So we're going to put the audio below it and the video track above it. If you're struggling in getting your head around the video and audio tracks, I would recommend watching a more introductory course into Premiere, just so you can get your head around it. Okay, so the first thing that we want to be doing now is we want to be syncing these up. Now you can tell they're synced up. If you're struggling to see the waveforms, what you can do is you can hold down Alt and press the plus keys, and that is going to just make our audio track bigger, so you can see them a bit clearer. Now I know because I've done this before that clip looks similar to that clip, and you can see you're looking for spikes in the audio that look like they match up. Okay, so you can see a spike there. That looks like it matches up. Okay, so we're just going to drag it just so it all lines up perfectly. Okay, and obviously a very clear spike is when Alan goes to pause it. That they should be aligned up, and this is what we're syncing up the footage here. Okay. So once we've done that, what we're going to do is we're going to stay in our audio section, and we're going to go in and we're going to mute the webcam track when the song is playing. So the way that these are recorded is he records through a camera and external microphone, and then through a screen recording. Now the external microphone doesn't pick up the song very well, but the screen recording picks up nice and cleanly. So we want the webcam audio to be quiet when the song is playing, and then for that volume to be raised when he's talking. So in order to do that, we're going to make some keyframes. Now I recommend watching a short video on keyframes if you're unfamiliar, but all it is it's just telling the system at this point, at this frame, I want the settings to be like this. Okay? So in order to create a keyframe, you're going to hover over this little middle line. This is your volume line. We're going to hold down Command and click to create a new keyframe. And you can tell that you've created a new keyframe because a little dot will appear. And as you hover over it before you create the keyframe, a little plus sign will also appear. So you're going to create 2 keyframes at the start. At the start, just before the song starts playing, and you can see he takes a little break here. We're going to create 2 keyframes after that. If you're struggling to find where the song starts and ends, just play the song. So you can see there. Now, with our 4 keyframes created, we're going to just hover over a line, and the cursor will change to be 2 arrows pointing opposite directions with a line. And you're just going to click, hold, and drag it. If you're doing it right, then it should just the volume will slow down, will quieten down to nothing. And you just want to drag it all the way into the bottom until it says, you just want to keep dragging it until it'll drag no more, until that number stops going up, and that's what you want. So it'll say minus 999, that's plenty quiet enough for us. And we're just going to repeat the process, but with this second section of audio where he finishes off the last song, we're going to create 2 more keyframes at the beginning and 2 more keyframes at the end. We're going to drag down and like that. So now, when he starts playing, the screen recording sound is going to pick up. Okay, so that is our audio section sorted. But you can see here that it doesn't look anything like the video that we need it to look like. So that's what we're going to work on now. We're going to work on getting the video up to where we need it to. So the first thing that we need to do is we're going to work from top to bottom. So we're going to work from the webcam, and then we're going to do the screen recording. So when you've got the webcam selected, you know it's selected because it's got big thick white lines around it. We're going to go over into our effects controls, which is up here in the top corner if you've got the layout set to default layout. Okay, we're going to click that to get rid of it. And if you can't find it, if you're struggling to find it, then you can go up here to your top menu, click Window, and scroll down until you find Effects Controls. That's going to just highlight that for you. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to click on this motion, the actual word motion, and that's going to bring up, that's just going to select it as a whole. Now you can see these blue lines around the program monitor. Okay, the program monitor is just essentially a preview window of what your video is. And we can work this if you've ever worked in Photoshop or just resizing an object in a document. You can drag this up and down and it's going to drag nicely for you there. Okay, so generally I will drag that down to be about 50%. If you want to get it exactly right, you can come over here and where it says scale, click on the blue number itself just once and it should come up and it will change to that. And you see we're just going to delete, and you can treat this like a normal piece of text. So I'm just going to delete the 0.9 so it gets to exactly 50%. Okay, and now we want to turn on our guides and margins. So we're going to go down here to our little toolbar. I'm going to click on the Safe Margins. Now if there isn't Safe Margins on your Premiere Pro, what you need to do is you need to go into this button here, which is the Program Monitor, and you need to select Safe Margins and just drag it onto that window. So if we, for example, remove it, so if you're just want to drag it and move it, so you can see that if yours looks something like this, you don't have those safe margins, you're just going to go over here to your button editor, click plus, you're going to find the safe margins button, which looks like 2 rectangles, one inside of each other, and you're just going to drag it onto the toolbar and then click OK. And there you have it. Okay. Now what we want to do is we want to just drag this in the window with these blue lines still selected, and we're going to drag it into the bottom corner. Now I like to drag it into the bottom corner of the outermost margins, but we're going to change this in a minute. So this is really just a rough placeholder. Okay. And now what we need to do is we need to move our screen recording. You can see it's quite big because it was recorded on a Mac, so they're quite high resolution. So it looks very big. So what we're going to do, because if we click to the motion here, we can't see the blue lines because the size of the video is bigger than the size of our sequence. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to our scale, we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to click on the 100, which is because the video is at 100% scale at the moment, and we're going to change it down to 50, which is half scale. And now you can see, if you've clicked on the motion now, you can see those blue lines and you can treat it as you did before. So usually I will actually have it about 35%, maybe even, usually, yeah, about 35%. But we're going to do some cropping here on Alan, so don't worry about that. We're going to do that in a minute. Well, we're going to do it right now. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do, so in the finished video, what you'll see is that he has curved edges. Now, Premiere, so far, does not have a function to just curve the edges of a video. So what we have to do is we have to create a mask. Masks are really easy to understand. They just can take a little bit of practice. So when we go over here to our opacity section, we are going to, you see these little symbols underneath it. Create ellipse mask, create a 4-point polygon mask, and free draw Bezier. And we are going to click on the 4-point polygon mask, commonly known as a rectangle. I don't know why they call it a 4-point polygon mask and not just rectangle, but there you go. So you see what that's done is it's given the impression like you've cropped it. But treat this more like this is a window into that clip, and you can adjust the size of that window. So if you hold down Shift and go and locate your cursor to the corner of this rectangle and just click, hold, and drag out, you can see we're making that window bigger. Now you can see if we drag it big enough, it's just going to look like nothing's changed because our window is then bigger than the sequence. So you want to drag it until you're at a point where you're usually quite happy, where there's a nice crop on Alan. We're going to expand the sequence in a minute, but the main thing that we want to do here is we want to click on the side corners. We want to bring it in a little bit. I'm not happy with all of this stuff in the background, all this one and this poster. So we're going to click on the corners, and you can tell that you clicked on the corners because the little next to your cursor will become a little it's like a target symbol. It's sort of two circles inside of each other. So we're going to click on one, we're going to hold down Shift, and we're going to click on another. And we're going to click on these two side ones, click, hold, and drag until we're at a point where it's nice and square. Now you sort of have to eyeball it a little bit. You can see there, that's quite happy with that square. But something which you may notice, if not in this video, but in your own, when you're doing this alongside, is the edges are blurry, and we don't want those edges to be blurry. So we're going to go into our mask properties over here in opacity, and we are going to lower the mask feather. You can see it's on 10, so if we just click on that and press 0, and then you can see that now we have very nice hard edges. Now we're going to go to our mask expansion, which is underneath, and this is what's going to give us our rounded edges. So we're going to up it to, I usually up it to about 45, 50. And you can see if you want to get it exactly right, you can just click on the blue number once and type in 50. And you can see there now, Alan has nice curved edges. And we just need to do a little bit of relocating, so we're going to click on the motion icon, the word, sorry, and we're just going to drag it, just like we did before, into this bottom corner. Now you can see we've got all this space, so we can make the video that he's reacting to bigger. So we can go up to, well, we can go up to 45, which is usually what I have it on. Okay, and we're just going to drag it so the edges of the YouTube clip line up with the outer edges of the window. Okay, so if we turn our margins off, you can see we're starting to get a rough layout of the clip. And so the next thing that we're going to do is, if you've watched the video, you will know that the background is white, not black. And that's what we're going to move on to next. Okay, so we now need to go in and make our background. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to go back into our project window. We're going to find this little icon down here in the bottom corner. It looks like a piece of paper with a corner folded over. And if you hover over it, it should say New Item. We're going to click on that, and we're going to go and we're going to create a color matte. Now, if any of you know Photoshop, then you'll know that it's basically we're just creating a solid layer. Now, it will by default, it will set itself to the settings that you have made the sequence, so it should be 1920 by 1080 for time base of 30 FPS with square pixels. That's what the settings that you want, and we're going to click OK. And now this color picker, if anyone's used Photoshop before, in fact, most graphic softwares, you'll be familiar with this. And we're just going to drag it into this bottom corner to make it pure white. You know it's pure white if the R, G, and B symbols are 255, 255, and 255, or if these hex code is all Fs. Okay? So we're going to click OK, and we're going to rename it. We're just going to call it White Matte. And you see it's made it, and it treats it this like a clip. But before we put it on, we just need to move in our sequence. We need to click, hold, and drag all of these and just bump them up a track. So we've now got a gap underneath. And we're going to fill that gap with the white matte. So we're going to click on the white matte, click, hold, and drag onto the sequence. And you see it's quite small on the sequence at the moment. But that's okay. We're going to extend it out using our red tool. So if you press V, that will make the tool red. And we're going to click and drag until it fills the timeline. Now we want to just trim off the end of this timeline here, because if we listen to it, let me make that louder so hopefully you guys can hear it.
Till next time, guys. Take care.
So we want to trim it to about there. Okay? So we're going to just with our red tool, we're going to trim all of these clips up until that point, and that just ends that video there. Okay? Okay. But you can see now, we now have the white matte. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to right click on this and locate to label, and I'm just going to label this tan. And the reason why I do that is just to make sure that it sticks out. Because it's purple and the screen recording is purple, the worry is that it's going to get a bit confusing. So the next thing that we need to do before we can go any further is extend out this front bit. You can see here there's a bit where there's nothing playing. There's nothing playing, he's just in the corner. And again, if you've seen the videos, you'll know that usually this is in the corner. So what we're going to do, this is where it is. So what we're going to do is we are going to go to the very beginning of the clip. We're going to use our arrow keys to go right 2 frames. 1, 2. Okay. And we are going to, with our razor tool, which you can get at by pressing C, we're going to click on that exactly where our playhead is. And that's just split the clip in 2. You see we've now got 2 clips. Okay? And at the end of this new 2-frame clip, we're going to go to 1 frame in, so slap bang in the middle. We're going to click on that, right click, and go to Add Frame Hold. And what that's done is it's created essentially a freeze frame. But it's created a freeze frame for only 1 frame, which isn't very helpful to us, so we're going to extend it out. So before we do that, we need to click on this first clip that we made. So the first clip out of those, and it should select the audio as well, and we're just going to hit backspace to remove it. Now this other clip that's remained, that is our freeze frame. So we can now extend that out again with our red tool selected, so by pressing V, and we're going to just extend that out all the way to the end. All the way to the beginning, sorry. And you can see now, when he starts talking,
hello, welcome to the channel.
We have got it playing. Okay? Now we're just as we trimmed off the end, we're gonna trim off the beginning here.
Hello, welcome to the channel.
So you can see we probably want it there. I like to trim it quite early, I don't like to have a lot of build up. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go in, and this time by pressing B, we're going to access our yellow tools, and these yellow tools ripple edit things. And if you don't know what ripple editing means, it basically just means it's not going to leave a gap. It's going to just shove it up. So if you watch the waveforms here, and what we're going to do is we're going to go up to the beginning of our clip with our yellow tool selected and all of the clips selected, and we're going to just click and drag it up until before that first waveform starts. So now the clip starts.
Hello, welcome to the channel. I'm Alan.
Where we like it. And what that's done is it's cut off the beginning of the clip, but it's just shifted it up so it starts at the beginning. And we're nearly finished. We're nearly finished with the main bulk of the clip. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the end, because when he finishes, there's a bit of animation. So when he's finished, you can see he stops the clip for the last time. and in the finished videos, we get a bit of movement here. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the screen recording. In order to do that, we're going to go a couple of seconds up, and with our C tool, our blade tool, we're going to hover just over the purple tool, the purple clip, and click, and that has just split the purple clip in half. Okay, we're going to click on the latter one because we don't need that, that's just a frozen still, and we're going to delete that because we don't need it. Now what we're going to do, holding down Command, we're going to hover over the very end of the clip, and you'll know that you're in the right place. You're holding down Command and the cursor will turn to this red. When I was training, they called it the butterfly tool because I guess it sort of looks like a butterfly. But yeah, so when you click, you should see that it will just highlight it in red. And once you've got that selected, you're going to just hold down Command and press D. And think of it as D for dissolve. And all you've done there is you've just added a fade.
This is like a lament.
Okay, but we need to do a few more things. So as soon as he pauses it, we're going to add some animation, and it's really simple. We're going to use keyframes again, but these are going to be visual keyframes instead of audio keyframes. So we're going to click on our webcam clip, and we're going to go over here into our motion tool. And we need to click on a few things. We need to click on this little stopwatch icon next to position and the little stopwatch icon next to scale. If you hover over them, it'll say toggle animation. And by selecting these, what it says to Premiere is, I don't want the settings to be the same throughout the entire video, they're going to change, and that's what we want. So what we generally want now is to go back to our timeline and just hold over a few seconds.
This is like a lament. Is this?
So about there, usually just a couple of seconds, we'll do it. And what this is, you're finding somewhere that where you want the animation to end. Okay, so once you've got that clip, once you've got that where you want the animation to end, you're going to go back over here into motion, and these two new icons have now appeared next to these undo items. And if you hover over the little circle, it'll say add or remove keyframe, and we want to add some keyframes. So we're going to click on it, and it will turn that icon blue. Now what we're going to do is we're going to treat this like it's almost its own clip. So we're going to click on motion again, we're going to go up to here, and we're going to resize it. We're going to move it around like it was, except this time you've got a little arrow, like a little line pulling it off, and don't worry about that for now, that's absolutely fine. So what we're going to do, we're going to drag it so it's centered vertically, and we're going to just resize it so that it's a little bit bigger. Okay, you don't want it to really to go, well, you want it generally over, so it's just creeping over the halfway line there, because we're going to put something in this space. So you can see now, if you watch it back, you will see animation.
This is like a lament. Is this dark humor?
So you can see it's done that, but I'm not very happy with that animation because it's very janky. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to our clip, and you can see we've got our keyframes here, and we're going to use these arrows next to these circle symbols, which says go to next keyframe. And what we're going to do, with this window selected, with the blue icon around it, we're going to just press plus and minus, and that's going to zoom into this little sort of micro timeline within our animation. Okay? And we are going to select those keyframes by clicking, holding, and dragging. And we're going to right-click and go to Temporal Interpolation. And for these first ones, we want Ease Out. And when we click, hold, and drag for the last two, we want Temporal Interpolation, Ease In. And what that does is it smooths it out. You can see the opening is now smoother.
This is like a lament. Is this?
And you see it's a lot smoother. I'm happy with that. So that is the two clips sorted. Now we've got one more thing we need to add just before we add sort of make this into a bit more of a full video, and that is to add our album art. Now, so what we're going to do with this, we're going to open up Safari or the internet, whichever one you use, and we are just, this song is Girlfriend in a Coma by the Smiths, so that is exactly what we're going to type in, Girlfriend in a Coma, the Smiths. Okay, and what we're trying to find here is the album that it's on. And so here is the album Strange Wares, Here We Come, released in 1987, sorry. So now that we know that, we're going to go back into here, we're going to create a new text icon, and we're going to do that by clicking on our type tool, or you can do that by just pressing T. I'm going to click on the sequence, and it's called Strange Wares. Now, you can see sometimes by default, it will be black. It will be white, and we don't want that because we're on a white background. So in order to do that, we're going to go into our clip control, and we're going to click on the text icon over here, and we are going to click where it says fill. We're going to click on the actual color itself, and we're going to move it into black. And you see it should update, and you can see I spelled it wrong, which is, you know, fine. So it's Strange Wares, Here I Come. Now if you want to make sure that you absolutely got the spelling right, you could always just copy and paste. So you can just select it and copy and paste. And that was released in 1987. Okay. Now the fonts that we use, so we use a font called Avenir Black. Okay. And so you do that by going into your source text, and the first one underneath it, that's your font, and you click on the little drop down, and you can start typing Avenir, and if you have got it downloaded, it should appear. If not, it's a font that's fairly accessible, so I'm sure that you can find it. And the font size is 30, and so we click on that, this next one down, where it says the slider, we click on the number itself, and we just type 30. Now, in these little options underneath, we want to navigate to the one that says all caps, and it looks like two capital T's next to each other. Okay, so with that selected, and you know it's selected when it turns blue, we're also going to change it to centered aligned. This is just so it looks a bit nicer, and we're going to do that. Okay, so then we're going to move it. So with the text icon open, we are going to move the position, and you can see if you can click and drag, then you can do it. Now if you click on the select tool by selecting V, you can just select it with the blue icon and move it to where we want it. Now you may be thinking, what am I aligning it up to? Because I know where the album cover is going to go, I can kind of figure out where I want the text to go. But we're going to add that now. We're going to add the album artwork. So we're going to search, we're going to Google the album, go to images, click on tools, size, large. This is just to get a nice large high quality image. We're going to find one that looks good. That looks a bit blurry, but I think it might be the best one that we get. So yeah, you might have to do a slight bit of searching to find it. Let's use this one just for this example. So you want to find a nice high quality image, and it will save it to your downloads. And you want to go to your downloads, and you can literally just drag and drop this into your sequence. And you can see it's in there, and there we go. And we're going to treat this exactly how we just treated the previous clips. We're going to click on motion to get our blue borders. We're going to click and drag it so it decreases in scale, and we're going to drag it so that it is center aligned horizontally, no, vertically, and there we go. So we're probably just going to move up the text there, so it's a bit more like that. You can see that's generally how we have it. Okay. Now what we need to do is make sure that this fades in at the right time. So
this is like a lament. It's
we play the video until it stops moving, and then that's usually when we fade it in. So we want to select our pink clips here and just drag them out so that they start playing at the right time. And then we're going to drag them so they end right at the end with everything else. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a dissolve in these clips. So we're going to do that by holding down Command, getting our butterfly tool and selecting them. So we're going to select the first one, and then with command still holding down, press D, and we're going to select the other one with command holding down and press D again to have those fade in.
Dark humour? What's the story? Why is she in it?
Okay. And this is the main bulk of the video. This is really the clip. So you can see if we skim through the video, everything looks good. Now this actually isn't the Smiths playing, this is just Morrissey. Now let me just go back and see. It's maybe where I show my okay. So that's how we're going to do it, and so this is the main bulk of the video. But now we need to just add the front and the back and make sure that everything is working nicely. So the first thing that we're going to do is create a little bit of space at the front. And in order to do that, we're going to press A, and that is our Track Select Forward tool. Now, if you're not familiar on tools, I would recommend watching my video on tools in Premiere Pro. There I walk through all the tools, and so you can see how they all work. Okay, so we're going to hold down. We're going to press We're going to just press a piece of blank track towards the beginning, and what that does is selects everything in front of that clip. And we're going to just click, hold, and drag. And we're just going to create a nice large bit of space in front because we've got a few things we need to add in front. And this is where we add our opening and end credit scene. So if we go over to this timeline, we're going to select this first clip because this is our opening screen. I'm going to go back and we're just going to copy and paste between screens. So all I did was I selected, pressed Command C, and went into this timeline and pressed Command V. Okay. Now we're going to click all of that and drag it so it snaps up into here. And then when we play it, now it might be a bit jittery because it can be quite difficult for Premiere to load it.
Hello, welcome to the channel.
It's quite an intense thing to load, just because it's quite graphic-y. But you can see there, that's doing that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to sort out this opening piece of text. Now we're going to, with the top piece of text selected, the top yellow clip, we're going to go in, we're going to double click until we get this essential graphics. And what are we going to type in? Well, you guessed it. Girlfriend, if I can spell it right. Girlfriend in a coma. And in that bottom one, we are going to type in the Smiths. Now, this is where sometimes it can be a little difficult because it's Morrissey singing it. It can be a bit difficult as to whether or not, because for example, Morrissey was in the Smiths. So you might it's a bit of a personal prep. So with this one, it's a little bit trickier because he was in the Smiths but now he's singing it solo. So you know what do you do with that? But because he was in the band, I usually will put the Smiths. But if someone's covering the band, for example, if another band was covering the song, I would put them at their band. Okay. So what we're going to do now, you saw me do it. We're going to click and drag the text scale so that the title text fills up to the innermost guides. Okay, so you can see there the edge of the A is lined up to this guide and the beginning of the G is lined up to this guide. Now we just need to raise it up a bit, so we're going to go into position, and where it says Y underneath, we're going to click, hold, and drag it. And you can see it might be a bit jittery, but we're going to drag it up so that it's just above the little middle mark that it gives you. And we're going to do exactly the same with the Smiths one. We're going to click on it, we're going to go to the position X and Y, we're going to find Y and just drag it to the left so that we can see that. You can see there we go. Now, again, if you've watched the videos, you'll know that there is some music playing underneath, so we're going to do that now. Okay, so we're going to find a piece of clip, and I usually like using a piece of the chorus or where they actually sing the song, where actually they sing the title in the song. So we're going to try and find that. But you might also want just an iconic part of the song if it's a very famous song. Let's find a chorus. Because I'm familiar with the song. So we found a bit, quite like that bit. So what we're going to do, we're going to press C, and we're going to hold down Alt and go over our purple audio. We're going to click to make to split, and we're going to click just a couple of seconds afterwards. And if you've done it right, you should have created 3 separate clips. And when you click on this middle clip that you just made, it should just highlight this. Okay? And we're going to click copy, and we're going to go right to the front of our timeline and click paste. So we've made a copy of just that selection. So we haven't removed it, we've just copied it. And we're going to move that clip onto a third layer of audio track, and we're going to put it underneath our title. Now you might need to do some trimming. Let me just zoom in so that it fills the track. So you should be left with something like this.
Hello, welcome to the channel. I'm Alan.
So you can see we've got there. Now what we want to do now is we actually want to open our Essential Sound tool. So we're going to go up here to Window, and we are going to navigate to Essential Sound. Okay, and that should open up a new panel, and with that clip selected, and you should see it come up with, if you want to know if you've got that clip selected, underneath Edit, the Smith's Girlfriend in a Coma screen. That's the name of the clip that we've got selected. So we are going to give it a dialog tag, and where it says EQ here, where it says preset, we're going to say it is outside of the room, and down here it says creative, we're going to say it's outside the club, and that just gives it a muffled feel to it. So you see now when we listen to it,
Hello, welcome to the channel. I'm Alan.
okay, so you can see we've done that. But now what we need to do is so that's the opening credits sort of thing done. We're just going to add our end screen as well while we're doing this. And what you need to do is you need to go back to that opening and end screens timeline and just copy the end screen section. So we're going to click, drag and hold to select it all, Command C, go back to the timeline, our working timeline, put your playhead at the end, and Command V, and there you go, it's in the timeline. And if it's something like this, then you can click on the little gap in between, which is just going to be that grey space, and it should come up with this white space, and you can just delete it like that. Okay, and this is our end sequence. So as you can probably guess, we're going to click on the yellow, and then double click to get up to our text editing. And what are we going to type in? Featuring Girlfriend in a Coma by the Smiths. Now if it does that where the second line jumps up, all you have to do is press enter. And obviously you will want to change video editing to your name because you don't want me taking credit for your videos. So that's how we just get that end credit sequence. The reason why this is designed the way it is so that we can put in some YouTube elements here for the end screen, you know, like what to watch next and a link to subscribe to the channel, etc, etc. So that's mostly the video done. The only thing we have to do now, oh sorry, before I forget, I almost forgot there, we need to add some sounds to this last bit. So all we're going to do is we're going to copy the sound from our opening credits, this bit. We're going to copy that by select, Command C. We're going to copy that by clicking on it and holding down Command and pressing C. And then we're going to go right to the end, find it. Now you probably want it at the cursor at the very end, holding down Command and pressing V. Now we're going to put it on the third track again, and we're going to extend this clip out so it actually extends to the full screen. So now, during the end credits,
Take care.
Okay, so there we go. Now we've just got a little sequence to do at the beginning, which is really easy. So it's just that opening 10 seconds which grabs the attention of the viewer and lets them know a little bit about the format. So usually I like to pick a bit in the beginning where he's paused it in the middle of the song. I think generally that's the best for the openings. So we're just going to select a clip here.
I feel a bit of black humour and sadness going on, but he's still got that stage presence. He's not obviously bouncing around, but his vocal range is still good in this song. Let's enjoy the rest of it and see what we think at the end.
So that's all it needs to be, just a couple of seconds. So we're going to click on C. We're not going to hold down Alt, and we're going to hover over our blue tracks this time. And we're going to hover over them, make a selection, and there we go. You can see you've made a selection there. And we're going to Command C that, and we're going to right to the beginning, make our playheads there, Command V. And there we go.
I feel a bit of black humour.
So now that little opening clip is in there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to just make sure that the audio for him is on audio track 2. That'll be important in just a minute. And we're going to click on this gap in between, and it should turn it white. Click on backspace, and that's going to delete it. So now the opening looks like this.
I feel a bit of black humour and sadness going on, but he's still got that stage presence. He's not obviously bouncing around, but his vocal range is still good in this song. Hello, welcome to the channel. I'm Alan, your host.
Okay, so you can see there how that's very nearly the opening. We've just got a few things we need to do first. The first is just making another little gap. We're going to put that white mat underneath there, just as we did before, to give it that white background. We're going to relabel that tan. You don't have to relabel things, but it helps me keep things in order. So you see now we've got the white background, but now we need to move it so he is in the middle of frame. And the way that we do that is we go over to our effects controls. We actually need to click on these toggle animations. We want to get rid of them. So if they're blue, we want to click on them, and it's going to come up with a warning. Continue, yes. Continue, okay. And now we're going to click on the motion, and again, we're just going to reframe it as we did before, and make him nice and big in the middle of frame. This time he wants to be slap bang in the middle of frame. You can see it looks pretty good like that.
I feel a bit of black humour and sadness going on, but he's still got that stage presence. He's not obviously bouncing around, but his vocal range is still good in this song.
Okay, and that is it. Now normally I will add YouTube elements front and back just before that, but that's just a very simple thing to add in, and I don't think I need to show you how to do that. And for the sake of this, they're not essential parts of the video. They're really just added sprinkles over the top. So that is the video. That's it. Oh, that's the video done, but now we need to get it ready to be exported. And the way we do that, we just need to add a couple of settings in. So the first one, you may be noticing, he's quite quiet. He could be quieter, but he's still a bit quiet. So we're going to go up to Window here, and we're going to navigate our way down to Audio Track Mixer. It's the third one down, and that's just going to open up this window. Now don't be intimidated by this window. It's easier than it looks. Now your window might look like this, and if it does, you want to find that top little arrow in the corner, the one that says Show, Hide, Effect and Sends, and that'll give you this little section. Now the first thing that we want to do is add a limiter on. And what a limiter is, it's just saying that the audio will not go above this level, and it's helpful to make sure that speakers don't peak. The video doesn't peak, so that it doesn't blow out your speakers. So we're going to go to the navigate the end one. You know it's the end one because instead of audio 8, it will just say mix. And we're going to go to this very top little slot here. These are all slots. If you've done any audio editing, then you'll be familiar with this type of stuff. And slot FX1 name, we just want to go to effect selection, amplitude and compression, hard limiter. That's going to add a hard limiter. We want to double click on that, and this is going to open this small little window here. Now presets, you want to change it to limit to -1, and maximum input you want to change from -0.1, and you want to click on that and just type in -1. Okay, and it's just going to add a bit of a limiter onto it. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to go through and make sure that these limits are hitting right. See, the screen recording is at a good volume.
And sadness going on, but he's still got that stage presence.
I think that he could be a touch louder. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go to Audio 2, because that's the track that Alan's audio is on. I'm just going to up it by just a few.
Not obviously bouncing around, but his vocal range is still
maybe just a couple more.
good in this song.
So you see, we've just upped it by 3 dB, 3 decibels, and it's just just balanced it out a little bit more. And that is it. That is it. It's ready to export now. Again, sometimes I will add a little grainy effect over the top, but for the sake of this tutorial, we don't need to. That's just an additional effect. And that is it. That is everything ready. So I hope that this didn't go too quickly. I tried to skim through it as quickly as possible, but without missing anything. And I hope that this was helpful. Thanks, and I will see you soon. Bye.